BARC TV gets us underway with the first of the races for Division 2 here at Brands Hatch, the final weekend of the 2019 season. Steve Powell on pole position from Luke Garrett, then John Bowler. Adam Bint is on the outside of row 2, followed by Simon Cole and Paul Rivett. Eric Forstrom with Graham Powell to his outside, then Willem Briedijk, Brad Smith, Craig Evans and Jim Bennett completing the grid. It's very wet and slippery out there, and John Bowler checks up a little bit. Steve Powell gets the jump on Bowler. You saw John checking up a little bit, and Steve Powell from pole position in yellow makes the jump here. Day one of a two-day festival of truck racing and motor racing in general. Adam Bint looking around the outside line, and Luke Garrett of Binty has a big moment as well, but it's Steve Powell who leads them up into Druids the first time. Luke Garrett on the inside line of John Bowler. Garrett goes into second, Bowler down to third, Binty fourth. Fifth position is Paul Rivett, followed by Simon Cole, then Eric Forstrom in the orange, black and white bonneted truck. Adam Bint, interesting to see the wet conditions levelling things out for performance of some of the trucks, and Binty much closer to the front in the wet, not had the rub of the green as far as the technical aspect goes or the speed aspect goes this year, but a very capable driver out of Bint, former champion as well, of course. Steve Powell out front though. This year's champion Luke Garrett in white and green. He's second. Luke having wrapped up the championship 6 races before the end of the season. He did it in race 3 at Pembrey in Wales last time out. Unusually, I'll tell you what, we've had a lot of hot days this year, but today, wet and horrible here at Brands Hatch for the truck racing, but it doesn't seem to be phasing the top 3. John Bowler right on the ragged edge, and now Luke Garrett goes to the outside line of Steve Powell. Powell in yellow, the HGV Direct Dines-backed machine. Tell you what, Steve Powell knows how to lead a race, knows how to win championships as well, former champion, but under pressure from this year's champion Luke Garrett. Remember, the 42 truck has no pressure on him at all, wrapped it up last time out, so any results that he gets are going to be just for the race's sake. Luke Garrett, as we wait for them to appear in Division at Surtees Corner. Powell still there, Garrett second, John Bowler in third. A little bit of a gap developing down to fourth place where Adam Bint is at the moment. Behind Binty, we've got Paul Rivett. Luke Garrett looking for some grip on the outside. Might be a sensible thing to do here because the regular racing line, and Jim Bennett is out of the race. That's up at Druids. He's parked up on the inside line, so the truck, to my mind, is safe. I don't think that will bring out any stoppage for the race. Nice to see Willem Briedijk in the Volvo. Good strong contingent coming over from Holland again this weekend, not only with Division 2 drivers but also in Division 1. We've got 2 drivers in Division 1. Yellow flags being waved there for Jim Bennett's truck. I suppose it is possible that trucks could end up hitting him, but less likely on the inside than on the outside. Look at John Bowler really trying hard in the 14 machine. Top 3 again starting to get clear in this 15-minute race to open up the proceedings this weekend. A standard format for us this weekend. It's 2 days of racing, 2 races and qualifying for Division 2, qualifying and 1 race for Division 1, 3 Division 1 races on day 2, and the final 2 Division 2 races on day 2. We're hoping for better weather tomorrow, but it really hasn't been kind to us today for qualifying. There was a test day yesterday when the drivers went out in the wet, and that prepared them a little bit for today, but I've got to be honest, as we see Craig Evans, first time out this season, quite a few seasons away for Craig, but great to see him there in his MAN TGA. Qualified 11th out of 12, so betting himself back into the formula quite nicely. Goes along the main straight as the race leaders go through Druids Corner. Yeah, the weather yesterday was wet, so it's prepared them a little bit for today, but it's much wetter here. This isn't the feature race day, this is effectively the qualifying day, and all the feature races are largely going to be tomorrow, but there are quite a few die-hard fans that are here to watch the racing, and a good crowd both days, but tomorrow will be an absolutely mega crowd because we've got the big firework display at the end of proceedings as well. Steve Powell starting to build a lead now over Luke Garrett. There is John Bowler in third. Binti still fourth, up ahead of Paul Rivett. Rivett, one of 4 drivers challenging for second position in the championship. There goes Brad Smith, second in the championship at the moment, ahead of the bonneted truck of Eric Forstrom, the Flying Finn. So we've got Eric, the Finnish driver, the Dutchman Willem Breedijk. We've got Mika Mäkinen, another Finn, back in Division 1 this weekend, plus Frans Schmidt and Kees Zandbergen. So it really is a good international lineup for the trucks. No issues at the moment. This is probably what we expect from a fastest off the front race. The grid determined by this morning's qualifying session. Fastest guys off the front. So this isn't the normal, or what people probably enjoy watching slightly more is the reverse grid racing. But this we can throw up some surprises in these races. But at the moment, with the wet weather, and I think it's fair to say that the form from qualifying is largely being borne out here with Steve Powell, the pole sitter, out front. Luke Garrett's jumped from third on the grid to second. John Bowler is in third place. Binti coming under massive pressure here from Paul Rivett. Paul, without a doubt, I'm sure will be a future champion in truck racing. It's Simon Cole next, the pit's going well. Then Brad Smith and Eric Forstrom. Eric in the Sisu. I've got to say, again, talking to the race fans, they actually prefer the bonneted trucks because I don't know, for me it kind of reminds you of the big American rigs when you've got the bonneted trucks rather than the flat fronted cab overs. Nothing wrong with the cab overs, they're efficient, they do the business, but for character and for new people particularly coming in to watch truck racing, they just tend to go for the bonneted trucks. A lot of the youngsters, though, prefer the cab overs because they're the ones that are doing the winning at the moment. The youngsters tend to be glory boys or girls, and go for the ones that are winning. And who can blame them? If it hooks them into the sport, that's no bad thing. Binti's still there from Paul Rivett. Now, Paul Rivett, 288 points. He is fourth in the standings at the moment. Just to give you the picture of where things are, Luke Garrett won the championship, we mentioned. Second in the championship, 294 points, Steve Powell. 5 points back is Brad Smith, 6 points back, Paul Rivett. So Paul just 1 point behind Brad Smith, and then another point back to John Bowler. Look at Binti hanging on to it, the Oxfordshire man, working hard in the Volvo White Aerodyne. A good fourth position qualifying for Binti, right back up at the sharp end where he deserves to be. In fact, if you look at the grid, so many drivers capable of race wins as Paul Rivett looks down the inside line now. Ruth's going to put a move on him. There was barely space. Binti got a little bit squirrely, a little bit of a knock on the front of the Tacosys truck, and you can see the front bumper's a little bit awry. Back with Craig Evans. I'm going to go back to talking about the drivers capable of winning. Steve Powell, obviously, former champion, pole position, leading the race. John Bowler's won races before. Luke Garrett's the champion. Adam Bint's the former champion. Simon Cole's won races. Paul Rivett's won races. Eric Forstrom's won races. So that's 7 drivers out of the top 7, all of whom capable of winning. Then you've got Graham Powell, 8th position on the grid. He's capable of winning as well. Brad Smith's won races. He's 9th on the grid. Willem Breedijk, I've got to admit, I haven't looked at his results on home tarmac or elsewhere in Europe. Craig Evans returning. Jim Bennett hasn't had I'm not sure if Jim's won actually. Jim's never won a race that I've commentated on, so you might call me a bit of a jinx. But a great driver. What I'm getting around to saying is that the majority of the field are capable of taking wins, and pretty much all of them, given the right circumstances, would be able to take podia. What a fascinating battle this is, though, for 4th place. Binti there at the moment. Paul Rivett is getting a big wind up again. Lead trio come through Druids again. There is Graham Powell in the 55. Had a miserable time here at the start of the season. We'd love to see Graham Powell back out with us. The Renault Premium adding further diversity to the field as Paul Rivett looks up the inside line now. You can see that deranged front bumper, and Rivett found the gap and just squeezes through past Adam Bint. Great race between those two, and Rivett, the reigning Clio Cup champion. Actually, no, he's not anymore because Clio Cup finished last weekend, appropriately, here at Brands Hatch, albeit on the Grand Prix circuit. And Paul Rivett, therefore, the last year's Clio Cup champion, we probably should say. Jack Young won it this year. Another Formula Renault Clio, organised by the British Automobile Racing Club, who look after the MV Commercial British Truck Racing Championship. It was a good finale and absolutely nail-biting stuff in the Clios. Jim Bennett's truck still parked up there, but the organisers have done the right thing and carried on with racing. Back with Steve Powell. Luke Garrett's got the fastest lap at the moment, so he's not given up the ghost at all, Luke Garrett. Not that far away from Steve Powell. This is home tarmac for Steve. Remember the big sideways moment there for Luke Garrett in the 42. Opposite locking. I tell you what, if you've not been to Brands Hatch, thoroughly recommend it as a day out. Here's Willem Breedijk again in the Volvo F12. If you've not been to Brands, do come down to Brands Hatch. And where you saw Luke Garrett have that massive sideways moment at Druids, that was my favourite spot to watch when I was a spectator back in the day. It really is a good Brands. You can walk around and pick your own spot, but for me, Druids Corner, the exit of Druids, where we saw that moment for Luke Garrett, is where I used to park my bum, not the car, because you can't park your car there. You can on South Bank, but a super place to watch, and you can see the cars through the trees going through Paddock Hill Bend. You can see them going down into Graham Hill Bend and onto Cooper Straight. You can see a little bit of the main straight as well. It's a super place to watch. It's also a good place for photography because the vehicles are relatively slow around there, and you can see the view. This is on the way into Druids. Our camera is stationed there. That's a good view too, coming down Graham Hill. Now, are we going to see anybody lose a lap here? Willem Breedijk is in 11th place. Craig Evans ahead of him in 10th. We just saw go through shot. Keep your eyes open for the leaders. We look back, here comes Steve Powell. I reckon Steve Powell has got time to start getting into some of those drivers. It's not going to be the right thing to call it traffic, but he is going to maybe have to pass a truck or maybe two before the end of the race, by my reckoning. Luke Garrett still giving chase. Double champion Luke Garrett, won it last year for the first time, wins this year as well. I know he would love to move up to Division 1, but it's going to be budget permitting. Maybe some rule changes required to do that, but at the moment I've got to say the entry levels that we've got this weekend, 12 trucks in Division 2, and as a result having to split away from the 14 trucks we've got in Division 1. Too many trucks to run in one combined grid, so it is a problem for the organisers. It gives us double the dose of truck racing, which is superb, and actually leaves the track relatively clear. In the old days, you might remember we used to have the pursuit races where the Division 1 trucks chased the Division 2s down, and not doing that at the moment. South Bank, I know you're probably thinking looks empty today. Well, the reason for that is it's coned off, because that's where the big firework display is done. So no parking on South Bank today because of the fireworks. So it may look empty there, but there's plenty of people around the rest of the circuit, by and large, behind our camera positions. Steve Powell still there. This is relatively straightforward for Powell, who will extend the lead. Brad Smith's going to lose third place in the championship here to John Bowler and Paul Rivette. They'll tie, actually. The way they are at the moment, Bowler's ahead of Rivette. There is Paul, still ahead of Adam Bint. So this race for the battle for second and third looking very good for Steve Powell to consolidate second in the championship. And Paul Rivette and John Bowler are going to come out of this race, as they are at the moment, tied on 300 points. But we've still got 3 more races to go over the course of the weekend. Steve Powell has been closed down on now by the champion Luke Garrett. Luke still with the fastest lap, and he's putting pressure on in the closing stages of this race. This is what truck racing is all about. Luke Garrett might have been biding his time a little bit, but they're closing in on traffic, and Luke maybe senses an opportunity here to close in. They're closing in on Willem Breedijk, the Flying Dutchman, as you can see, through McLaren up into Clearways. Steve Powell keeping it tight. I'll tell you what, I thought Luke might have gone a little bit wider for grip there, because all of the grip on the outside in the wet is because the inside line, the gaps in the tarmac, is filled up with little bits of rubber from racing all the way through the year. On to the last lap, past Breedijk goes Steve Powell, Adam Bint. I think Binty's had a good race here. He's not lost touch with Paul Rivett at all. Rivett running in fourth immediately ahead. The WDE Motorsport prepared Tacosys backed machine. Good race from Binty. Nice to see him up with multi-race winners again. John Bowler having a lonely time of it in third in the blue number 14 truck, but it's Steve Powell who has actually seen off Luke Garrett now. Whether Willem Bloedijk fell a little bit easier for Steve, I don't know, but he's pulled away. And Luke Garrett, I think, here would have wanted the win without a doubt. He doesn't want to be content with second place at all, having won the championship. It's academic. He just needs to win races now for fun. Hopefully he's enjoyed it. Very difficult conditions here, but it's an MAN 1-2 with the DAF of John Bowler still in third position. Through clearways onto the clock over the Brabham Straight for the last time will go Steve Powell. The local man, the publican, lives half a mile away from Brands Hatch, so home game for him. I know his missus is doing the work at the pub. Charmaine, as he takes the checkered flag. Steve Powell wins, another great win for him. Luke Garrett second, John Bowler third. We're looking at the fourth place truck of Paul Rivett, who really has been in a race and had to work hard to get past Adam Bint. He hasn't left Binty at all. And this augurs well for Adam Bint for next year. If he can get a good run of form at the meeting here, having sorted the problems out. Steve Powell on his slowing down lap, and will be taking the plaudits of the marshals and fans here at Brands Hatch after another excellent win. 15 points for him. Luke Garrett second and fastest lap. John Bowler next from Paul Rivett, Adam Bint, Simon Cole, Brad Smith, Eric Forsham, Graham Powell and Craig Evans completing the top 10.
Converted pole into a win, sixth of the season, I think.
Yeah, we've done all right. Pleased with it really. It was tricky conditions, a bit worse than qualifying to be fair. Had a good start, gapped Luke a bit, but then I took it a bit easy for the last 3 laps. I didn't want to make a mistake because it is quite treacherous out there. So, no, very happy with a good start to the weekend. So,
Luke, you're already the Division 2 champion, second place and fastest lap today.
Yeah, I would have liked to have had Steve. I was trying, got caught with some back markers, but yeah, it's still obviously a very good position to be in with the championship. And yeah, I'm just pushing forward because I just want to do as best I can this weekend, really.